We'll keep it rolling. That's the first time I ever had someone ask me that. What's up, homies? Welcome to another episode of the Homies Real Estate Podcast. This is your host, Anthony.
I'm Angel.
I'm a realtor.
I'm a lender.
And together we're breaking down this crazy real estate market. We got a great podcast for you. We're going to be talking about solar, and I brought the one, the only Gandhi. Gandhi, you want to say hi?
What's up, everybody? How you guys doing?
We're doing good,
man.
Gandhi. So tell us a little bit about yourself. So you're a solar specialist. What do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say, my partners and I currently operate a solar brokerage, and a lot of what we do is help customers that have high utility bills and convert them to, going solar and dropping their electricity bill by 50 to 60% without having to pay $1 out of pocket.
Gotcha.
Wow, man, that's phenomenal.
That's awesome. And what's the name of your solar company?
Echelon Solar.
Echelon Solar. And how long have you been in business for?
A little over 3.5 years.
Nice,
man.
Nice. That's awesome. I bet it's been quite a run, right? Because there's a lot of federal incentives and reasons to get solar.
Absolutely. It's been crazy because when we first started, the volume that we were doing, it was like if we were doing like 10 deals a month, we were like jumping on my bed,
Yeah.
And now, we've scaled our business to do 75 to 100 deals a month.
That's
Awesome.
crazy.
So a little over 1,000 customers a year. And part of that actually, within 2 years, we actually started our own roofing division as well.
That's
Awesome,
awesome.
man.
That's really,
That's
really cool. So in this podcast, I figured it'd be most beneficial for our homies to learn a little bit about solar panels, why a lot of homeowners should consider this. And then at the very end, we'll talk a little bit about your journey. So the first question we have is, what are solar panels and how do they work?
Absolutely. So, solar, the beauty about solar panels is they're going to be very stagnant on your roof, right? They're going to attract sunlight, convert that into electricity, and ultimately power your home. So the beauty about our business model is what we said is if the utility company can build a business with a lot more overhead, then we can adopt a similar business model and allow customers to simply purchase power from the solar panels on top of the roof.
Gotcha.
Awesome, man. And why should somebody go solar?
Absolutely. If you're currently a homeowner, right, and you have electricity bills, if you look at historically, let's just focus on California specifically, right? You look at utility companies, they've been increasing their cost over the last 6 years by approximately 8 to 15% a year.
Okay.
So a lot of the times customers, right, think that their only option is to pay that electric bill because it's a monopoly in California. However, the good thing about solar is if a home does qualify, we're able to drop that, like I mentioned previously, by 50 to 60% without them having to actually pay a single penny out of pocket.
Wow. And that's the typical savings, 50 to 60% that you
Absolutely. I think we as a company, right, in this industry, you have a lot of people, contracting and home improvement in general. You have a lot of, companies and people that don't really do much volume. So they need to mark up, projects, they need to mark up deals. With us, because we do a lot of volume, what we said as a company is, hey, we're going to take care of the customer and make it a mission to give customers, whether they're on discounted programs with the utility, 50 to 60% savings or more.
Got it.
Wow.
Man. Phenomenal.
That's awesome.
And how would you know, like, if someone comes to you, is my house right for solar? Like, what's your answer for that?
Absolutely. Angel, that's a good question. I get that all the time. The first thing I tell them is, hey, first, let's take a look at your electric bill. Let's see if it even makes sense.
Yeah.
And then if it does make sense, which it will, usually 90% of the time, we'll then go ahead and schedule a site survey to send an engineer to inspect the roof, inspect their electrical, take a look at their attic, the sheeting, the underlayment, and ultimately see if it's a suitable home for solar. And unfortunately, I would say a third of the homes that we do qualify, don't meet that requirement.
Wow. And why would that be?
It's a variety of reasons. First, it's, a customer's credit can be, a little bit below threshold. The condition of the roof, right, doesn't meet the threshold. Their sun hours are just not optimal, so they're not going to save money or it's not beneficial to them.
Got it.
So it's a variety of reasons, but ultimately the good thing about us is because we understand that 90% of the time this product's going to make sense, and we know a third to 40% of customers aren't going to qualify, we internally said, hey, let's go ahead and build our own roofing team and our roofing department. That way, what we can do is go ahead and take care of minor roof repair for the customer at no cost to them.
Wow, that's phenomenal, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. And how much does solar cost?
I get that all the time. That's a funny question. So ultimately, your average solar system in California is around 25 to 35,000.
Okay.
Keep in mind the way that we structured all of our deals, and a lot of our personal clients currently aren't even buying their systems or owning it, right? So a lot of the things that we structured is you can go solar and finance it for $0 out of pocket, and your monthly payment is going to be 50 to 60% lower than what you're paying. So let's say you are a customer, right, that owns a home. You're paying $100 on average. If you were to qualify for solar, expect to be paying $40 a month, and that would be your new cost of solar and electricity.
Got it.
Wow. That sounds like a great deal. Like, why doesn't everyone have solar?
I know, I get that all the time. That's fine.
So I know you went over the financing options and stuff, right? Like, so that's financed to you guys, your company, or how does that work?
Excellent question. So, we focus mainly on three components: engineering, procurement, and construction of solar systems. Okay. So it's, a lot of people are saying, hey, talk to me about your business, right? It's not like, hey, we're selling solar panels.
Yeah.
We're doing that entire component of engineering, procurement, and construction.
Got it.
If you look at a lot of the major players in this industry, SunPower, a lot of these major companies, Solar City, they haven't been able to turn a profit over the last 1.5 to 2 decades because they took on EPC plus financing. So what we said is we want to be profitable day one. That way we can benefit and profit share with the customer. Okay. So what we do is we have finance partners that we utilize, and we internally cover all of those bank fees. And we have a finance partner for a customer to own a system so they can finance it at under 2%.
Got it.
And then we also have a lease and PPA program that I'll kind of touch on a little bit more, where customer can also finance it for $0 down.
Phenomenal. And would you ever recommend somebody to maybe pull out equity or do a HELOC or a cash out in order to finance the solar panels, or is it best just to go through you guys for?
Excellent question, Angel. I'm always open to, I get that question all the time. And I usually tell clients, let's first take a look at your electric bill. Let's figure out what your cost of electricity is. And typically, if it's currently on par with most of the customers out there, then we would recommend a bill swap program. Okay. Mainly because if you look at today's real estate market, and obviously you guys can kind of dive in, we haven't really noticed that homeowners that go solar that actually purchase the system are getting increased equity.
Got it.
Right. In today's market. Right.
Makes sense.
So, you want to take a little break?
When you say bill swap program,
I didn't know if I didn't want to overstep you guys.
No, you guys are good.
No,
Perfect, man.
When you say bill swap program, what does that mean?
So, probably my favorite program, and it's a program that I have on my personal home as well, is the PPA. What I call it is a glorified bill swap, because it gives you all the benefits of solar, which, to be quite honest, if you guys were to look into solar, why would you guys look into solar?
Save money.
Save money, exactly. So the beauty about this program, it allows you, a homeowner, to put solar on your home, and all you're doing is doing what you've been doing historically with the utility company. Because if you look at your home, there's a meter, right? So that's the utilities equipment that they installed at no cost to you. So what we're doing is a similar concept. The only difference is, right, it's a solar system. Wait, why are you laughing? Did he fart?
Did you fart?
Why are you fucking laughing?
You had me dying over the break.
Fuck you. I didn't know if I was overstepping your guys' toes.
No, it was good, bro.
Because I didn't want to speak about the real estate market, because I'm not a fucking expert. I just tell clients that.
I'm still dying. But we'll keep it rolling. That's the first time I ever had someone ask me that. Oh my goodness. All right. So next question we have is,
farted or something.
my last question is, how long will my solar panels last?
Solar panels on average will last well over 3 to 4 decades. So, historically we have panels that were installed in the Mojave Desert, right, in the 1970s, and they're still producing around roughly 78% of year one output. So what does that tell us? Solar panels are going to last a very long time. Okay.
So they do degrade year over year.
Yeah, they do degrade. The beauty about the products that we use, they're tier 1 Bloomberg rated.
Okay.
The lowest degradation factor of 0.025 to 0.05. So 0.25% to 0.5%.
So basically in 20 years, you'll have about 90%.
Correct. Yeah. You'll have around 86 to 92% of year one output, depending on how we build your solar system.
Wow.
Got it. And do these solar panels have warranty if something were to happen?
Absolutely. So as we were kind of discussing earlier, our business model as a company is not, selling solar panels, right? It's engineering, procurement, construction of solar systems, as well as servicing, maintaining, monitoring, and warranting the system over the next 25 years.
Okay.
Because like we mentioned previously, panels are going to last a really long time, but what a customer needs is a company that's going to service and maintain them over the useful life.
Got it. Makes
Gotcha.
sense. And so if you need, my bad. So say if something you needed work on your panels or whatever the case may be, they needed to call you guys. That's absolutely free to the customer.
Absolutely. So just like how the utility company, right? So the way we've designed all of our programs is to make it where if a customer qualifies for solar, everything they do is no different than the utility, right? So if there's a brownout, there's a blackout, right? The utility is going to dispatch their W-2 workers to maintain and replace the grid lines, right? Similar concept with us, right? Especially with the bill swap program, where our business models, we're selling the customer power, right? That's how we make our money. That's how the customer is getting power. So ultimately, with that business model, who do you think is more incentivized to make sure that that system's up and running and producing power over the useful life?
Got it.
Right? It's us.
Yeah.
So another question I have is, let's just say I get a Tesla, right? Or some other vehicle that requires more electricity and I need to add more panels to already my existing solar system on my roof. What does that process look like?
Excellent. So I get that. We get that all the time, especially with this EV boom. The way that we build solar systems is based on historical usage. So the reason why utility bill is so important, it's going to give us that data. And the good thing is we file interconnection with the utility. So if a customer plans on installing AC units, EV vehicles, we're able to increase that offset to cover it. So for example, if you look at a Tesla Model 3, if you're driving 10,000 miles per year, you're approximately going to need around 27 to 2,800 kilowatt hours annually. Okay. With AC units, you're going to depend. We're going to look at the shear rating of the AC unit and how many hours they plan on using AC for the year. And that's how we're going to construct that solar system to make sure that it's accurate.
Okay. And if you want to add more panels, how does that work?
Excellent question. So depending on the program that you do, if it's ownership, right, and the customer, for example, just starts using a lot more power, right? If they're like Anthony and they start cranking out a bunch of kids, right? They're gonna start increasing their power output. They're gonna be grandfathered into the same interest rate, and all they're gonna do is simply just add those additional panels into their loan. If it's a bill swap program, what you're doing is essentially locking in a low cost of power. So if a customer increases their usage in 3, 4, 5 years, they would simply add more panels for $0 out of pocket and purchase the power that it produces from those panels at that low rate that they grandfathered.
Makes sense.
Perfect. So let's actually talk about that real quick. So it seems like you're referencing two ways to go solar.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So you said PPA and you said ownership route. Can you briefly explain the difference?
Absolutely. So both of our options are zero down. And what we usually do are our certified solar consultants, right? We have a huge team. What they will do is kind of do a discovery with the question to figure out how they want to go solar, right? In California, there's essentially 3 ways to go solar. There's a lease option, there's a PPA option, and then there's an ownership option. Typically, we don't recommend the lease because it puts a lien on the property. And I'm sure, you guys can attest to this being a realtor, right? They put a lien on the property, so it's difficult to transfer as well if they were to sell their home.
Absolutely.
So what we've done, right, is said, hey, if you're going to go solar, we typically advise the PPA route because it has 100% transferability if you were to sell your property. And more importantly, there's no lien whatsoever. Okay. The ownership option.
PPA stands for what?
Power purchase agreement.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the ownership route.
The ownership route, similar concept, right? Think of it as you're taking out a loan. Typically, if a client's going to own their system, then what they would do if they're going to sell their property is most likely pay off their loan. There's no prepayment penalty with all of our finance partners, and then be able to list their home for more, right? If they think they can, and depending on the real estate conditions.
Got it.
Okay. And then for the ownership route, is the solar system transferable or how does that work?
Typically, the warranties are going to be transferable, right? So if a customer, let's say, owns a system and sells their property, they would transfer the warranties to the next individual that assumes ownership. We are actually one of the only Pearl certified solar installers in the nation. So what does that mean? That if you're going to sell your property, we actually will give you a Carfax of your solar system, right? Meaning the components, the fact that it's going to be serviced and maintained for X amount of period. And because we don't subcontract, you're able to get peak return from your solar system. Okay. So typically what I advise clients, right, that own a system is to just pay off their loan. That way they can list their home for more.
Got it.
Gotcha.
And there's so many companies right now. I feel like solar is just such a popular field right now, right? It's growing tremendously. How do you know what company to trust?
That's a great question. You know, I always typically I would say in today's solar market, most clients are doing their due diligence, right? They're meeting with and consulting with various clients. The beauty about that though is that actually made our job easier because now we have clients that know exactly what they're looking for and know that they want to do solar, right? For us, our hardest job is literally picking the best product for them, whether it's a PPA or owning, right? There's very few companies in the entire nation that offer PPAs. Because it's not a very lucrative business model, right? Think of it from a solar company standpoint. They're installing the system, right? They're taking on all the initial investment and they make their return on investment after year 12 and a half, right? On average. So from a market standpoint.
When you say 12 and a half, what does that mean?
Let me rephrase that. So ultimately, when we look at the business model of a power purchase agreement, the solar company, are installing the system. The customer is not paying anything out of pocket. All they're going to be doing is paying monthly for the power output that system generates.
Gotcha.
Okay, so when a solar company does a PPA, they typically don't make their return on investment till after year 12. Okay. So one, from a customer care standpoint, most companies don't offer a PPA. So the fact that we offer that, and I would say 80% of my clients pick that program, it separates us from anybody else. Because remember, we don't focus on margin, we focus on simply acquiring the customer. And because we operate on volume, that's where we as a company said, hey, we're gonna make our profit, our revenue from taking care of a handful of customers, and hopefully by generating referrals.
Gotcha.
Got it. Makes sense.
Gotcha.
And real quick, for the contracts or for the PPA, how long is that agreement for?
So because we're going to service, maintain, monitor, and warrant the system for 25 years, all of our agreements are standard 25 years. And the reason for that is it allows us to maximize the customer savings.
And then the ownership route, obviously you're going to own that system forever. But if you decide to finance it through one of your financing partners, how long is that financing for?
Absolutely. So whether it's a PPA or ownership, it's going to be 25 years.
Still.
25 years, there's no prepayment penalty on both programs. If a customer wants to double up their payments, they can and finish their payments. But typically, on average, most people don't.
What's the interest rate on the financing?
Financing is a 199.
Wow, that's really, really solid interest.
I know, right?
Especially now that interest rates.
I know, right? That's why, when you're talking about like the HELOC and stuff, typically I don't advise it, right? Because we cover the bank fees, so it works in the customer's best interest to just finance it with us.
Makes sense. Question might be a dumb question, but I'm just curious. So, if when there's power outages, since you're getting your source from the sun, do you get power outages too if we have solar?
No, that's a good question. I get that all the time. So ultimately, right, we as a company provide solar, battery, and roofing solutions. Okay. So when I consult with a client, I usually ask them, hey, when you're looking into solar, right, are you simply just trying to find a way to drop your electricity bills, or are you trying to protect yourselves from outages? Right. The thing is, they're mutually exclusive, meaning you can't have battery backup, right, and protection from outages and get savings because batteries are so expensive.
Makes sense. Okay.
If a customer or homeowner, right, is encountering a lot of outages, then yes, we would integrate a battery solution to protect them from that for your future instances.
Got it. Makes sense.
Gotcha. So let's talk about your journey into solar, if we may. So I know you mentioned you've been in solar now for 3.5 years. What got you into solar?
That's crazy.
What drew you into it?
So I don't know if people know this. So I went to UC Santa Barbara, actually where I met Anthony. Yes. And I thought I was going to be an accountant, right? I was like, okay, I'm going to work in corporate America, be an auditor, and be there for the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
Ironically enough, I got into the hospitality and nightlife industry. Okay. Literally within 6 months of getting into that industry, I met somebody who actually owns a really big solar installation company, and good friend, good mentor, kind of the individual that really gave me the momentum to get into the industry, and I'm always thankful for him for that. And my best friend Herschel, who's currently a partner of mine, basically got into solar and started working with him.
Gotcha.
So Herschel kind of went through all the trials and tribulations. We always joke around about it. We call him the guinea pig of solar, right? Worked at 4 solar companies, didn't have much success. And then, we ultimately, got together, started a business. And then, from there, it started slow. It took 8 to 12 months before we really started ramping up, before people started believing in our vision, believing in, our business model. And, from there, just, just sky's been the limit.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. And then like, what have you learned? Like what lessons have you learned for future solar salesmen or just future entrepreneurs in general?
The biggest piece of advice that I would say is execute, right? So for me, if I didn't take that leap of faith and quit corporate America, 8 months in, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, right? So I love entrepreneurship. I love business because it's the one thing that you can quantify your success from revenue, right? Because the numbers never lie.
Yeah,
exactly.
So, at core, I've always been an individual that focused one on making sure that our revenue is always increasing, making sure that we're always profitable. And number 3, making sure that the individuals that believe in us, right, that say, hey, we're going to quit whatever we have going on and put our faith into this organization are, getting rewarded.
Awesome. Man.
Right. And I would say like, if you execute, and you're consistent with that execution, the results are going to come.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that a lot of people need to hear because everyone has a great vision, right? And everything's a dream until you start to enact it, until you start to take massive action.
Exactly.
And it takes a great idea of risk, a great idea of vulnerability to like take that action because you might fail, but again, you don't ultimately fail until you quit. Right.
You're right.
So
you're absolutely correct.
You went through 12 months of trials and tribulations your first year in solar until you finally started to ramp up, and now you're killing it. Like it's awesome.
It's crazy to think about when you look at the journey. And I would say the next thing is, one thing I've learned is you kind of mentioned like advice for people is when you look at sales as a profession and you look at entrepreneurship, a lot of people confuse titles with success. And I would tell you that, when you look at like metrics on millionaires and the mega successful, you look at most millionaires are actually not business owners. A lot of the millionaires out there, and I think there's a statistic, we can Google that. I think it's like 70 or 80% of millionaires out there work in organizations and they make millions of dollars. So, and what I typically tell people is, find a vehicle that's going to allow you to grow. Right. And, keep fueling that fire. And if you feel like that organization isn't the right vehicle for you, then yes, look into other endeavors. But typically when you look at salespeople, you look at most business individuals and operators, they're in the same position that they were year in and year out. Why? It's because they stay in an organization, they quit, they go into a new organization expecting new results, thinking, hey, this is a new opportunity. It's going to be a new result. Screw the other company. The reason why I'm not successful is because of their leadership or their organization. Exactly. But the thing is, one thing I've learned innately is, over the last 28 years, is a successful individual will find success in any organization. And I think that's what people fail to realize. And the people that commit and say, hey, I'm gonna put my head down and focus for the next 12 months are the ones that usually are typically the ones that get the results that they want.
100%, man.
Gotcha. So, I mean, that's a really, really great podcast, Gandhi. Like, thank you for hopping on. What's the best way to reach you?
Through Instagram, Party with Gandhi on Instagram.
Party with Gandhi. Do you have a business Instagram?
Yes, it's ag. Well, ladies, you DM my Instagram. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
We're gonna pull up Party with Gandhi here as well.
I'm just kidding. You guys can cut that out.
What's your?
It's gonna be Echelon Solar Power.
Echelon Solar Power.
Correct.
Gotcha. And then Angel, where can we find you at?
At Your Mortgage Angel on Instagram.
At Your Mortgage Angel on Instagram. Homies, you know where to find us at the Luevanos Group. I want to wish you all the best. Peace out.
Thank you. Hey homies, it's Angel from the Homies Real Estate Podcast. This podcast contains our opinions and is for educational purposes only. It does not guarantee any projections and should not serve as the basis for any purchase or sale in real estate.